What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, The Real Rundown, where we talk about everything happened on television and in movies. I'm joined this week with Pedro. What's up, Pedro?
Welcome back, everyone.
What's going on?
Long day, even longer documentary, man. Even longer documentary. This documentary is only 4 parts that we're gonna talk about today, but it was 4 hours, so it was a little tough to get through.
You made it through. It was like seeing, like, revisiting part of my youth, and then like the last 2 episodes was like, holy shit, I missed out on a lot after I dropped off.
There was a lot of holes to fill in that went unnoticed, but super watchable, man. Super watchable, like super bingeable.
Yeah, we're talking about the Diddy doc, the new one, which called Sean Combs: The Reckoning on Netflix. That was on. Everybody I spoke to was like, I guess I got to watch this Diddy doc because Netflix is like throwing it on the splash page every single day.
Yeah, they're like, in the last year or two, there's been like 2 or 3. There's been like a bunch. I know TMZ went like all out and like updated their doc that they did after a while and everything. But this is like, I feel like this is the one to watch right here.
I got the official list. I was curious about, like, and it's more than you think. So here's the official list of all the Diddy documentaries that came out as of 2024. This is as of 20. So just last year, we have TMZ presents The Downfall of Diddy on Tubi.
That's the one I remember, like, constantly popping up on Hulu. I think it was featured on Hulu or something.
There's another one called Diddy's Downfall. That's on Hulu. Similar name, Downfall of Diddy, Diddy's Downfall. That's on Hulu. There was The Secret Life of Diddy on ABC, also on Hulu. There's Diddy Hiding in Plain Sight, Channel 4 documentary. It's on YouTube now. The Fall of Diddy, multi-part documentary on Max. Diddy Making of a Bad Boy on Peacock. I saw that one. And the one that just dropped last week, Sean Combs: The Reckoning on Netflix. So
every network,
that's a lot. I would be
pretty much has one. Hulu, Peacock, Max. I didn't know Max had one. That's interesting. Max is usually my go-to when it comes to choosing between documentaries, because their documentaries are so good. And now Netflix. So yeah, unless Paramount has one, I think that's everything, right?
Paramount's probably still working on theirs. They're a little behind. But yeah, everybody and their mom dropped a documentary on Diddy. This one was particularly scandalous because it was produced by 50 Cent, who has been beefing with Diddy for a long time. And that's weird too, right? Like, you're somebody that publicly, somebody who publicly, like, constantly talking shit about you, then drops a 4-part documentary on the biggest platform. I'd be hurt. But
yeah, man. He did a great job, though, man. I mean, he's got producing. Guess he's got producing credits under his belt. I know he's got acting credits, and I know he's involved in producing before. But this was really well done. So
yeah, he did this show called The Power or something on Stars or Showtime.
Yeah, he's been in the cut since his music career was over. He's been doing a lot of stuff with movies and things like that.
We'll get into that because there's a lot to get into. But do you have any thoughts on the Paramount, Netflix, Warner Brothers drama?
Yeah, man. I want to say that just like feeling wise, not really going into the details on anything, like it feels bad, like Warner Brothers is like, somebody's got to have like a favorite movie from it, so, they just make good stuff. Everyone I know loves them, so it's kind of feels bad to see them.
I mean, all the IP is still going to be around.
Yeah, but it's like they've done such a good job with their work, with their IP and all their stuff that you just want it to stay. Even dating back to being a kid and like the WB, like Tiny Toon Adventures and all that stuff. I don't know, all that stuff that was, I don't know.
Yeah, and
Um,
just putting on starting a movie and having that recognizable logo, right?
yeah, yeah, but yeah, it feels like, I don't know. I wasn't following this stuff, but it feels like recently it just came out of nowhere that, oh, WB's up for sale. You know, they're in trouble. And then there
Yeah.
were rumors about what was going to happen, and then the first rumors were like Paramount's going to make a bid, and that's weird because they just got bought out. So whoever bought them out must be splashing right now and trying to
Yeah,
add
they
to
are.
that. Um, and then that was, I guess, a rumor. And then like the big official news was, I think this was last week, right? Yeah, a week
Yeah.
ago now, that it was Netflix that was like the forerunner in it. They made a huge bid. It's been formally accepted. I think they even went
It was
as far as
accepted. Yeah,
saying.
it's been accepted.
And now, all of a sudden, 2 days ago, we got, or yesterday even, I think it was not 2 days ago, just breaking news that it's what they're calling a hostile bid. Paramount's back in the game. They're
Yeah.
they got a, they threw in a bid, uh, more
Which is
per
like a
share,
bid. It's like
yeah.
more per share straight to the shareholders, so like directly to the shareholders.
Yeah.
Um
And
yeah,
normally it's like, go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts on this before I get into like why I don't like this.
I don't like this either. Yeah, initially the three contenders were Netflix, Paramount, and Comcast. Comcast does not really have they were never serious because they're not as rich as the other two. Netflix obviously has a lot of money. Paramount, they pretty much got money from, like, from what I read, the Saudi money, Qatar money, and some like private wealth fund from Jared Kushner. I don't like that
For this particular bid, right?
for this
Their
specific
recent
bid.
their
Yeah,
recent buyout was Bad Robot and another media company got together for their recent buyout of Paramount.
yeah, that did not. I don't think it involved any like foreign investment. Um, but yeah, it's weird. Which I don't know which way this is gonna go. I think it's gonna be in litigation for like 2 years probably before anything actually changes hands. So I think Warner Brothers and HBO Max, that's gonna be stay intact for a little while. But then you have like, okay, if Netflix gets it, does that mean after they finish all their, releases and contracts with movie theaters for those releases, are they going to keep everything on streaming and pull new releases from cinemas? Um, what are they going to do with all those properties? Like in particular, HBO, is that going to be like an add-on for Netflix? It wouldn't make sense to be like a standalone app, or did they just absorb all the content and it's all Netflix now? And if it's Paramount, then you're basically buying like another version of you because they kind of do the same thing. And the movie theater business will probably thrive because Paramount is all about the cinemas and putting movies out in theaters, but you're going to have massive layoffs because you're going to have so much redundancy and people who do the same job. So it's going to be a lot of studio closures, firings, and also you're going to have potentially, they own CNN, so there's going to be a bit of conflict of interest for a company now owning CNN, owning ABC News, having nervously close ties with the administration.
CBS News, not ABC News, right? CBS.
Right, CBS. But they're very Saudi money, Qatari money in American mainstream news ownership. Like it just feels
It doesn't
weird.
feel right. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel right. There's a lot of weird elements going around. Initially, my initial like gut feeling was like, oh, when I heard about all this, I'm like, oh man, I don't want Netflix to buy Warner Brothers and become bigger and possibly dilute the quality of HBO programming and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I've riffed about it before on the show, and I just think like, I don't know, most, not everything, but most Netflix productions are they're not
They're mid.
they're not there for me
They're for the
100%.
normies. They're more for the normies, for the
Yeah,
mainstream. Yeah.
yeah. But then, this thing happened, and I'm like, well, the Netflix deal doesn't sound that bad now because of a lot of the things you just mentioned, and I was listening to like a quick news flash about this stuff and some of the details, and even the just the guy who's in charge of
David Ellison.
Paramount now, David Ellison, is related to Larry Ellison, who I had no idea.
Oh yeah, that's his son, Larry Ellison.
Yeah, that was his son, who just got awarded by the administration, like he's like going to be the top guy that owns the TikTok US version after this whole like ordeal, and like that was handed to him down by the administration. And it's like, then you got, like you said, you got Kushner involved, and it's like CBS just had that stuff going on recently where with the late night show, and they kind of bended the knee to this authority, and
60 Minutes too,
stuff coming down from the administration. And it's like, all right, well, now they may possibly own CNN. So what does that mean for CNN? Does that mean they're gonna have to bend the knee? Does that mean they're gonna get like,
is it like some state media kind of thing?
Yeah, it just
gets weird.
It's too fishy. It's too weird. I don't like it. I wish a third player. I wish I just wish it wasn't.
Just wish like somebody's rich grandpa bought it.
Yeah, like somebody's rich grandpa that just wanted to see it stay up and love the content. But
I also heard,
I don't like either of them. But it seems like Netflix is the lesser of the two evils right now.
So Netflix, their whole thing is like, stay at home, watch the movies on streaming. And I read recently that Warner Brothers actually owns 50% of of a company that produces most Blu-rays. Like most of the Blu-rays that are out are produced by this company that Warner Brothers owns a majority in.
You mean like the physical production of Blu-rays, like the actual disc?
Like the actual disc or distribution. So Netflix is going to own that now. Like, are they going to kill that? Like, I don't think they would kill that, but they can.
They could, and then force everyone into a digital viewing experience.
Yeah. And also, like, keep in mind, we grew up where our parents paid for cable, and it was like $150 a month for cable. Like, that's what Netflix is going to cost in a couple of years, because you're going to have just Netflix, Paramount, and Amazon, and Disney, right? Disney, Hulu. And like, those are going to be the 4 TV providers, and the cost is going to be pretty high. It's going to be pretty fucking high.
And it's funny because I was just joking about that last week when the Netflix bid got accepted. Like the first thing I texted was, first thing I told you guys was by next year, Netflix is going to be $50 a month.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be, because that's a lot of content. And I mean, it seems unheard of today, but like our parents' generation and even people in our generation, that's what they paid for cable. Like, but that was the whole point of getting rid of cable, because it was people realized it was a ripoff. They were paying for so many things that they didn't need. And that's going to be Netflix now. It's like, you're going to have all these movies, TV shows. You don't watch any of them. You watch like the Diddy doc, Stranger Things, and that's it. But you're paying for all this slop that's on there.
Yeah, you're paying for everything. They figured out how to tier things up and charge you more and charge you less, but there's no bundle that gives you like just like action and drama movies, like none of the other crap, So
yeah, I think from everything I hear, it's gonna take a couple years to resolve. There's folks saying that like the deal's not even gonna go through just because of antitrust. It has to be approved, obviously, by the administration.
Yeah, and then going by the recent happenings, antitrust isn't really a thing for this administration, so they kind of like turn the eye on that. So
it is if they like you.
There is. They are Paramount. I would say Paramount's in like
they're in pole position.
They're in a good position right now. They've got the inside hands in it.
Yeah, I think.
But like,
so.
just think about it. Just think like. I read somewhere that in terms of like vinyl records, there's only like 1 or maybe 2 like places in the United States or maybe in the whole world that like actually makes the vinyl records. I think it's in the US. And I'm just like, we imagine if like Spotify bought those 2 places out, and then they could just kill off like vinyl records, and everyone's gonna have to stream on their platform.
Yeah, I guess the same thing kind of happened to music, and it's happening because music, Spotify just announced that prices are going up again. So it's the same kind of story there. The one note about Netflix is they're buying only Warner Brothers. They're not buying any of the cable channels. They're not buying CNN or any of those. Those would
Yeah, so
be,
then that would split those up, and those would be up for sale. So
yeah, those would like be a whole separate thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'd hate to see like the end of HBO. I would just, if there's no more HBO, like that would make me really sad.
yeah,
But
about to go buy that HBO trucker hat right now, so you could.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens. It's gonna take a couple years for this thing to settle, but I would say in about 5 years, the movie, how we watch movies, and what kind, most importantly, what kind of movies are being made. If there's only one or two or three or four players, what kind of movies are going to be made is going to be, probably different. I'd say if Netflix gets it, maybe like the new superhero movie, maybe the new Batman movie will go to theaters for about 2 weeks, and then after that it's on streaming. Like, you're not going to have that 3-month theater run. So it's going to be, movies are just going to be focused on like eventizing kind of thing. Like the new Barbie movie drops, it's in theaters for 2 weeks, all the Barbie heads watch it, and then all the normies just catch it on TV. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see. A lot of the,
I'll keep you
like,
up.
Hollywood is pissed.
This is huge. This is like, this might be the biggest merger in recent history. So, or biggest acquisition in recent history. So we're gonna keep everyone updated on that.
It'll be a huge shift in terms of like how we watch and what kind of stuff is being made. Let's talk about this Diddy documentary. I just got into this like 3 days ago, and I finished it a little bit earlier today. I didn't really know what to expect. I naively thought this was only going to be like what happened in the past like 2 years with Diddy, because I haven't heard about Diddy or even cared to know what Diddy was up to in like 10 years. So when I started watching it, and then the documentary suddenly was like cut to 1989, I'm like, oh, I might just jump ahead, because I kind of like, I don't need an origin story here.
Yeah.
Right. But I stuck with it, and it was worth sticking with because you see all the shit that he did in the 90s too. It was eye-opening. I think he walks away from this looking like a horrible human being, which maybe he is. He probably is. What was your sort of gut takeaway or first takeaway?
Yeah, first take, I'm just like, hey man, this is on the splash page. Let me check it out. I read somewhere that it was like produced by 50 Cent. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And like you said, it starts off kind of like with the whole background story. And I sort of like knew some of it. I definitely knew a lot and had read a lot about the whole Tupac incident and everything.
So the
like
Tupac incident is like the conspiracy that he hired a gang.
Yeah, they get into all that in episode 2. Episode 1 was more really about like his background, his mom, where he's from, Harlem, and how he got into like the music industry. And I knew some of that. I knew some of the stuff from episode 2 with Tupac and everything. But this, they got into details and they filled in holes that I didn't know about. So I'm glad I stuck with it and I didn't fast forward like you said.
No, I didn't fast forward. I wanted to,
because I thought of doing the same thing. So yeah, I think the way they set it up and just showing his background and like how as early as 1991, I believe it was, when he was just starting out, he was in Uptown Records, and he was promoting some sort of concert at a basketball game, which turned into like a stampede, or like people were rushing to win. People got crushed. I believe they said 9 people died, or 9 people died.
Yeah, like 9 people died.
Like nobody, that hasn't been talked about in like decades, probably. Like,
Yeah,
and
I haven't heard about that
little
in decades.
with the little that's been talked about, little did anyone know that like he was the promoter behind that. So as far back as 35 years ago, 34 years ago, there's been people dying around this guy. It's just left and right.
That's what the last episode does really well. In the last like 10 minutes, I think one of his the co-founder of
Yes.
Bad Boy, I can't
Yes.
recall his name right now. But he basically talks about this pattern that in 1991,
Yeah. Kurt
9
Burrows.
people. Oh, is that him? Kurt Burrows? Yeah. So in 1991, 9 people die at this basketball event. In 1997 or 9, he has a Steve Stout incident. Then he has the Shine incident. Then he has like the incident which I had never heard about, where like his son and him and a third guy go into the bathroom, and then the guy in the bathroom gets shot.
Yeah.
That was the story by Little Rod, which I had never heard that story before. And that's not even like,
imagine how many more we haven't heard. I mean, this is just some guy telling us his experience, like being in a studio recording with him, you know,
as recent as 2024, because that guy, he produced the album, Diddy's album that dropped in 2024, I think, right? Like that was pretty recent.
Yeah, I may be getting the dates confused, but it seems like that album, Love, I believe it was called, dropped right before all these charges and all these things started happening.
Yes, it dropped in September of 23. So
yeah,
he was doing a lot of promotion.
Yeah, he was he was on TV shows, everything. You know, it was right before all this stuff came out.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that was huge. A huge part of my life, a huge part of your life was the Biggie Tupac beef, Biggie Tupac death. Like that was probably, I think people our age never gonna forget where we were when Tupac died or when Biggie died. And we also grew up around the conspiracy that Tupac was still alive, or like who killed. Was it Suge Knight? Was it this guy? Like that was our generation in the late 90s grew up on that like for years. That was like going on for years.
And depending on whose music you liked more, you would side with their story.
100%. 100%. You either East Coast or West Coast.
If you like Tupac's music better, it was like, yeah, well, Puff Daddy was ruining rap, all this commercialism. And if you liked, the East Coast hip hop, it was like, yeah, Tupac and Death Row, they're the ones that started it. They're the ones that like agitated and are responsible for it.
Yeah, those nights at like the Source Awards were infamous. And back then it was like pre-YouTube. So when you saw that, you're like, oh shit. You just heard people.
It was all MTV News and MTV clips.
But I think 10 or so years ago, it was revealed who killed Tupac. It was like some
Orlando Anderson, member of the Crips. That was pretty.
And what this documentary does or tries to do is sort of tie that guy, Orlando, to his uncle to a gangster. To a gangster here in New York in Harlem that Puffy was friends with. And apparently Puffy told this gangster in Harlem to talk to this guy's uncle in LA to, I don't know, kill Tupac, I guess. They don't outright say it, but it's insinuated by a number of people who were close to Diddy at that point.
Yeah. It was pretty much protection at the height of the beef and everything for them.
Yeah.
They had,
it started out as protection.
Suge Knight had his affiliation with his gangs out there, and Puff Daddy and these people needed their protection, so they went to like rival gang members. But then, we like that's understandable. But then there's this whole like bounty and put on, that it's been rumored for years, but now there's actually people talking about it. There's recordings of this guy like confessing to it to a detective.
Yeah.
And that detective, he's written a book, and he has his own documentary too, I believe, that gets more into that.
Yo, didn't they put his documentary on his lower third? I thought they did.
Probably,
I thought
yeah,
they did.
probably missed that. But I'm pretty sure I watched that, and that gets it like way deeper into it. Like there's all this like police corruption involved in it and stuff too. So
Right, with the LAPD, right?
yeah,
Yeah, this stuff goes deep. That's one thing that I realized about when I was watching this documentary. Is like this stuff goes like way over our heads as like regular working people who listen to music and follow popular culture. It's like I used to see Diddy as like this corny rapper who wanted to be part of the cool kids in the hip hop scene, right? He was with Biggie, he was with the Locks, he was with Black Rob, Shine, but he was always like the corny guy on the mic doing the interviews on MTV and you know talking to Ellen and shit.
yeah, a
But
lot of Ellen clips in this.
but then you realize like this guy was you know a fucking monster compared to all those dudes that he really worked with.
Yeah.
Like he you know the stuff that was going on behind the scenes is crazy, is just crazy.
And the way he was portrayed, his character in the media, like we said, you know, he was on Ellen, he was on MTV, Total Request Live, and all these shows, and he was just seemed like a happy, positive guy. You know, he went through
Yeah.
like the ordeal of losing his friend, you know, Notorious B.I.G. and like all this stuff. But like, man, what was going on behind the scenes? He was just making money off of people's contracts. None of those artists he like brought up and represented, you never heard from them again. Like they disappeared. Like
Yeah.
there's, I mean, you name them, like all the artists on Bad Boy Records, all of that stuff. Like they're nobodies, you know. Like most of them are probably like broke, don't have money. He just like sucked the life out of these people and and took their money through these like outrageous contracts. And it
Yeah, I
just
think
goes to show you, looking back at it, like who's left standing. He's the last man left standing out of all of this, out of like the West Coast beef, out of like Bad Boy Entertainment and their artists. And it's like, man, everyone around this guy. This is why what this documentary did so well, that it has people on camera talking from way back before he was a millionaire, before he was famous, before all that, you know, when he was just coming up, he was screwing people left and right. And like, man, at the end of the day, he was just the last man standing. And
yeah,
there had to have been a reason for this. And, you know, they're telling you like these are the reasons, because he did this to all these people. And that's why you never heard. That's why these people never like reached the next level of artists or like success in the music that they were making, because he would take over after that, you know?
Yeah, I think his bodyguard said, and a few people said, like he competed with artists in the sense that he had to be the front facing guy, the most popular guy, the main attraction. So even when he did videos, he was all up in the videos. When his artists did records, he was featured in a lot of those records. And that he didn't like the idea of other people being more successful than him. So I think that goes to that point. Like he treated people like shit. He didn't pay a lot of the people, right? That guy, Little Rob, he never paid him, and he produced his album for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy never got paid. And that's another thing. A lot of people around that worked with him said they never got paid. He screwed his partner out of 25% of the Bad Boy company. That guy said he was homeless after for some time until and blackballed from the industry as a result. So real scumbag shit. What I did appreciate, I was a huge Tupac fan as a young impressionable kid. I still am, and I'm still very much a fan of Biggie. But I do like that it provided more insight into the Biggie Tupac relationship and how close they were, and also that Pac just refused to fuck with Puffy. He's like, I'm not down with this guy. I don't want to work with this guy.
Yeah, I like that. That was an angle that I hadn't heard before of the story, where Tupac and Biggie were good, you know, they were good friends. Yeah, Tupac like was there at his record release, like wanted to promote his music and everything. But it was really Puffy was really the third string that
Yeah.
was trying to sever their relationship, because I guess, you know, he didn't want competition in music. You know, he didn't want, you know, he wanted to be better than his competitors. But that was a different take that I hadn't heard before. You know.
I hadn't heard that he was jealous of Tupac and
Yeah,
Biggie's relationship and friendship.
he created the rifts between them, and I'm like, man, you know, well, the way they presented it and backed it up makes pretty good sense. So that's a good take right there.
There's the infamous shooting in 94, 95, I think, at the New York studio where Tupac got shot. And there's so Little C's retells that story, and Tupac tells that story through an older interview. And he says that these guys had called him to come down to do a record, just to record something. And he's like, they're being super pushy about it. Like, I told them I'd come down. I stopped to buy some weed. I was smoking some weed, and they kept blowing up my pager and calling, insisting that I come. And he even said that he found it weird that they kept calling him. He's like, dude, don't worry, I'm going. And when he got there, you know, he got shot by two, I don't know if they were bodyguards, just two guys who
they were it's unknown who it was.
Were hired, right?
Yeah, like they didn't he didn't recognize them, but he just assumed that they were involved with the Puffy crew because the Puffy crew was there recording that night. So
yeah, and Little C's, who was there, says like he went to meet Pac, and then as he got out of the elevator, two big dudes were like, "Nah, homie, go back upstairs." Right. Yeah. And then shortly after, Tupac was shot, I think 5 times, and survived. If you ever listen to his music, he talks about that quite a bit. And then Biggie also said he had nothing to do with it, that he loves Pac. And Biggie also like never really put out an official diss record at Pac. So yeah, it was great times with a tragic end. And then after Pac and Big both died, like Diddy kind of became a superstar for a couple of years.
That was like his official launch into stardom, right? They even like, it was kind of like his big coming out was kind of like that MTV, I think it was the MTV Awards performance where he got Sting to sing the original rendition of "Watching You, I'll Be Watching You."
Yeah.
And from there, his solo album came out.
He released a solo album.
And then after that, it was over. He just took over the world. It seemed like he might have been like the richest hip hop artist at one point.
Yeah,
yeah. It literally all started right after these people all passed away. You know, his competition, Tupac, the Suge Knight went to jail. Biggie died, and even like right after his death, they'd talk about how Biggie was supposed to be on, I believe it was a Rolling Stone cover.
Oh yeah.
And Biggie and Puff Daddy is like, he kind of like got I think it was Kirk Burroughs that was telling the story. He got him to cancel that, and he said, I need to be on the cover because my album's coming out and that's what needs to sell.
Right, yeah.
And then he even talked about how like the funeral like expenses went into like Biggie's trust or account or something. So he didn't even pay for that huge funeral that he had, and like the driving of the hearse down like New York and stuff. And people were like,
yeah, and that
was crazy. And that's, you know, that's stuff we didn't know, because they really got like the people they got to talk on this documentary are like the people closest to him. And there's just so many of them that it's like, okay, maybe if one of them was making something up, but there's so many telling these same stories and backing it up that it's like, man, you can't get out of this. Like, you are caught red-handed with all this.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate Kirk Burroughs' perspective, just because he was his business partner. So he knew where the money was going. In the case of the magazine, he was talking to...
He had the receipts, yeah. He had the receipts.
He has the receipts. Like, he knew what was being marketed and with whom and when. So he was able to call a lot of this stuff out. The whole thing about him not paying for Biggie's wedding, making Big pay it through, sorry, funeral, and making big pay through, I don't know, his contract dealings or whatever is so disrespectful, because he rode Biggie's coattails for a long time after Biggie passed away. He released a couple of albums, a couple of Biggie albums. He just made a lot of music off of Biggie as like a brand, because Biggie had so much equity in hip hop that Puff just latched onto that and rode it until basically burned out. But there was someone else made an interesting point, like from the late 90s to the early 2000s, all of Puffy's artists like disappeared or burned out. You got Mace, Little Kim, Carl Thomas, Black Rob, The Lox, Faith Evans, 112. All those guys that were bad boy artists were gone by like 2002, maybe.
All of them. And then he pivoted over to like pop music and starting these like, it started with Making the Band, that MTV show.
Yeah, and then he started making the band. It was downhill.
And then he got that reality show, and that like was kind of like what the Osbournes did to Ozzy Osbourne. You know, it like shot him up to another level. He became like a household name in pop culture. And then that you never heard about that group anymore. That was more like of a hip hop group. They just fizzled out after that. They never made it big. And then after that, he started like just putting together pop groups, and eventually was in a pop group himself with two other women, one of which is telling her story in the documentary, and called Diddy, like it had some weird name, the group.
Diddy Dirty Money?
Diddy Dirty Money, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yo, I never heard of Diddy Dirty Money at all. No,
because it's like we're saying, these people just came out, maybe dropped like a song or two, and then fizzled out. And he's probably making all the money off of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I remember No Way Out, obviously. That was a huge, huge album. Forever. The Saga Continues, not really. I wasn't really fucking, because everybody who listened to hip hop in the 90s and early 2000s, like Puffy was whack. Like he was just a rich guy making music. He wasn't really all that talented. Even No Way Out, if you listen to his albums, they're full of guest appearances, because he's just a really bad artist. But he's really good at marketing and creating talent. At least he was, until anything after like Making the Band. I don't know who that appealed to. I was certainly out at that point.
I think he saw that there was money in these pop groups, and just like people putting, grabbing like 5 or 6 people that can sing and are young and look good and putting them together in a pop group. I guess he saw like there was more money in pop than hip hop at that point.
And maybe it was just like the reality television deals that he got with MTV and those companies. He also did the Ciroc deal. So he got very, very wealthy.
I think Making the Band on MTV like kind of set him up as this image of a guy that can put groups together and find success for them, because he has that talent.
And he has that talent,
that know-how, and that industry experience. But yeah, man. And then it turns out, he was doing things to those people in the pop group, those women in the pop group that he put together and stuff. So
yeah. And then the spine, I mean, this is all when I was, just back up a minute. So the whole like charges that he faced around with like the baby oil freak off parties, that was what I thought the documentary was going to be about. That was
because that was the latest news. That's what everyone was talking about after his houses got raided.
Right.
And these charges came up. That's what's fresh in people's minds. And this documentary does a great job at reminding you of everything else,
But everything with his relationship with Cassie, all of the weird sexual shit where he hired, and like, look, it's not a crime to hire a guy to bang your wife, I guess. or like ask your producer to like go get hookers. I don't know, but he was also like physically abusive, and groomed a lot of people, which just means like his way of grooming people was, hey, come work for me. You're going to be rich. You're going to be
Mhm.
famous. You're going to have so much fun. And that's the groom. You're hooked right there. You're in. And if you're living like this guy, Little Rob, for example, if you're living the life, he's moving you to Miami or Los Angeles and you're producing music on a yacht and you're just partying, you go along for the ride because he's promising you fame and success.
Yeah,
And you're
and
thinking of
he's
your own
dangling that
ambitions.
carrot that the album is gonna come out and it's gonna make sales and we're gonna make a lot of money.
Right. And he even said, this guy, Little Rob, who's a producer, he was like, I couldn't wait for this album to drop because it would open so many doors for me with other artists and to become a
Mhm.
musician beyond
Exactly.
that. But Diddy would never allow that. He never paid this guy. He dragged him around for like 2 years. And that's how he would groom you, is just to like sell you this dream that was never gonna come. And then you're hooked, you know.
And
He's
then
like
you never come out, you know, your work, your music never comes out or barely comes out, and then you're never heard from again.
he's like it when it opens up its mouth and you see the lights and you're just like
Exactly.
that's the hook.
Oh man, but man, red flag should have been that this guy. Well, I guess you know, he's like at that point he was a legendary music artist, but that story he said that it took him like 16, 18 months to record 7 verses.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, you got to know the guy's washed. Like he hasn't made music, he hasn't dropped an album, and they said 13 years before that. Like
And he's all
something's up.
drugged
But
out.
yeah,
Like his
and
assistant was like, dude, you're like 50 and you're doing ketamine. Like for who? Like, what are you doing with yourself?
and the
Yeah.
sad part is a lot of these people that he took advantage of, they weren't coherent as to what was going on because they were secretly being drugged. You know.
Yeah, apparently there's drug in the baby oil too. I don't know how you even do that, but like
Yeah.
it was interesting to see the FBI photos. They had all that too. I guess that's public, but they had all the photos
Yeah,
of
I had seen some of those images before.
mad drugs, mad
One
alcohol, mad
thing I
baby
hadn't
oil.
seen, um, that was really cool in this documentary was that footage of the Tupac footage on the night of the Mike Tyson fight, right before he was killed. They showed like
Which one? We've seen that before.
yeah, we've seen the wide shot of the security camera. There was a
Yeah.
shot of like a close up, like you see these guys like
Oh, them
walking.
in the lobby, right?
Yeah, you see them like walking right past the K. It almost looked HD. Like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, why haven't I seen this before? It
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
a different angle of that incident. And then what else? There was another one where
Well, there's the Biggie footage. I
that
had
yes,
never
that's
seen
the
that
one that they
before.
let up. They showed on screen. This footage has never been aired before. And it was like them getting in the car and you hear the shots and everything. Like that was like the moment it happened. That was crazy. I don't know how they found that or got their hands on that, but
Yeah.
probably someone that was at the party had a camcorder and had never released that before or something.
Yeah, they dug that up. So this is like, I think Biggie was going home. It was two separate cars, and then yeah, you hear the shots, and they're like, "Is that Big's car? Is that Big's car?" And you hear the whole conversation. Them like calling the ambulance,
That was
calling the
amazing.
cops.
That was amazing. That was really amazing to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. That's crazy to see. But yeah, a lot of people out here from not just from like the '90s, but people from the band, from Danity Kane, from the Diddy Dirty Money people, like everybody's kind of has the same story.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's why, you know, I think this documentary is so important because everyone's story is telling the same story. It all adds up and it's all connects from way back in the late 80s, early 90s up until now. You know, it's just like a trail of what this guy was doing.
yeah. And they say like it's a little cliche, but like he never had a dad. He idolized this like local gangster
Mhm.
who basically treated people like shit. And now he's raising his kids He's basically grooming his kids to this whole lifestyle.
That was weird because throughout in the whole footage of him in the hotel room that this documentary like kind of like is built on, you see like these other people around him, and one of them, was they said one of them was like his security, another guy was like a longtime friend of his, but then they were like these other people and they never named them, and until the last episode you see that it's his two sons.
Yeah.
That are like there with him while all this news is coming out, all these accusations and stuff, and it's just like, wow, his kids are right there next to him with this stuff.
Yeah, but his kids were in all these freak off parties and shit with him too.
And that's then
the crazy
when
thing.
they said that story, I'm like, and in the recording studios, I'm like, okay, that's just weird, man. Like, even the security guard had to, say like, I feel bad for the kids because you never know if they would have gone down that route themselves had he not brought them into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where Diddy goes from here. Like legally, I think maybe he escaped the worst of it.
I don't know. I feel like the stuff revealed in this documentary could bring up cases more, like can bring up a whole another's. I just feel like there's new evidence that might compel more
people to come forward.
No, more legal drama. Like, because
he has like 50 or 70 cases still pending.
Yeah. And then getting into the towards the end of the documentary with the trial and him getting acquitted on most of the charges. And
the big ones, yeah.
Yeah. And like this just like all-star team of lawyers that he got together that got him off the hook. It's just like, I mean, it's crazy that they even got the jurors, like two of the jurors, to talk on camera. And it's just disappointing because you see them and they just seem so out of it. Like,
especially the woman, she just seems like a fan. And I'm like what the fuck?
Yeah, that really upset me, man, because it just reminds you that, like, if you ever have to go to trial as an innocent person, these 12 jurors of your so-called peers that are gonna put up there are just, they're just tools, they're just people that don't know anything, are just tax-paying, gullible people, and they're like your local Karen that you see walking down the street. That's who's going to be in charge of either prosecuting someone who's really evil or letting them get away with it. And as we saw, what happens.
Yeah, I thought I was really disappointed just because I get the guy's perspective. Like, he's like an older, like Indian dude. He's like, I don't know this fucking Diddy guy from a hole in a wall, but he just like objectively looked at the case and made his choice. I was like, okay. But she was a straight up groupie. She was talking about, oh yeah, I was following Puffy since the 90s. She referenced that he was on like the band and making the band and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, she's like a real fan. Like, she knows his work and stuff like that. And then at one point, they were talking about how Diddy was like looking at the jurors and sort of making these motions, nodding, making eye contact.
You're not supposed to legally do it.
And was like, yeah, I agree with him that this story seemed very unlikely. And they're talking about the story of his assistant being held at gunpoint while he tries to kill Kid Cudi. I'm like, what? At that point, I kind of lost it. I was like, damn, I lost faith in humanity at that point a little bit.
Yeah. And I've seen, I've watched documentaries before where they talk to jurors post-trial of like these big trials, and every time it's the same thing. It's just like, man, it's just some like your local average normie, like you would say, just Karen.
Yeah, and that's who he should be. Like, I thought the older guy, I didn't have a problem with his worldview. I was like, okay, he sees it that way. Like, I get it. But I'm just like, how do you put this woman on the jury? Like, I don't know that part. I didn't understand, but yeah, I guess like
I feel
his
like something
lawyers
has
have
to come out of
influence
this.
over
I
that.
feel like this was pretty groundbreaking and a lot of new stories and footage and things were shown in this that something's got to come out of this, man. They might have to go to trial again because of like, kind of like the Robert Dirks thing.
Yeah, the DA is definitely going to be, because this is like
there's got to be
Epstein,
people in this documentary that the cops haven't talked to yet,
Yeah, and evidence stuff that they can go through. It's not as Epstein level, but this is pretty egregious. It's like
this is like Weinstein level.
Weinstein. Yeah, this is like Weinstein level. Exactly. That's a great point.
Like,
yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do with this guy, but somebody, I don't know. I hope they get him for something, because he just seems like a horrible, horrible, horrible human being. And even he turned his kids into horrible human beings. You hear him talking in the documentary, and it's like, dude,
yeah,
you guys are all fucking crazy. The only one that seemed normal was his wife, who divorced him. But who knows?
I don't see him coming back from this. Like, if he gets away with this stuff, this guy, you probably won't hear from him again. I assume he'll just be in the cut. He can't. There's no way he's gonna try anything like musically or anything after this. This is kind of like that. This is kind of like that diss record that like puts a rapper out of commission. This is like 50 Cent just buried this guy with this.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's done career-wise. He's got plenty of money to lean on, but I think, not that it's gonna run out or anything. I'm sure it's like really well invested in all this stuff, but
he'll
commercially, I think he's cooked.
Yeah.
I thought he'd been cooked for like 10 years. I hadn't heard shit about fucking Diddy, and then you just hear like the worst thing possible almost.
Well, I think this is a good example of, you named at the start of the show, you named all these documentaries that came out. And yeah, people probably watched one or two of them, but like I said, I think this is the one to watch, and this is a good example on why it's good to wait.
Yes.
To produce a documentary about like a big event or something that's happening, so you can get like, post-trial stuff, like you get all the angles, everything, instead of rushing to just make a documentary about something that just happened.
Yo, I didn't realize this till now. His ex-wife, Kim Porter, passed away in 2018.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of flu-like symptoms. I'm not saying Diddy did it, but
everyone around this guy's dying, man, or dead, or broke.
Yeah, or broke. Fucking Craig Mack, man. Craig Mack's wife was on. She's like, yo, this guy was almost homeless after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there, man.
On a sad note, we'll leave it there. Hopefully, we'll pick it up with something more positive, like the finale of Pluribus.
Are you up to date on that? I think we have like 2 episodes left, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna catch up to it. I'm 2 episodes behind, but now that it's reaching its finale, I'm gonna watch all of them back to back and enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, 3 left. I wanted, a few weeks ago, I wanted to mention this. Like, if you want to watch a good movie, there's a good movie on Netflix called Jay Kelly with George Clooney and Adam Sandler. Really good.
I've heard of it.
Really, really good. And the Golden Globe nominations, I think, came out today or yesterday. So check those out. It's always a good hint at what movies you might want to watch before the Oscar season rolls around. But all right, man. I'm glad we did this. I guess I'll see you next week.
Stay tuned, subscribe.